funny. I was just thinking about the minute that I decided to do this video. It was 4:11, and some crows started cawing. Crows are energetically the keepers of the law, and what they mean by that is the keepers of the laws of karma. And that's what this energy feels like. And I was torn between, do I want to do this as a divine nugget or as a Mercury retrograde energy? And I mean, it's definitely a divine nugget. It's a download. It's a thing to help you when you're ready. You're in multiple ways. You can do it multiple times and see it. But for whatever reason, it's going to come out here first. And maybe later, I'll do a different one that's more of a divine nugget. Though it's interesting because there was a Mercury retrograde last year. I cannot recall if it was the Mercury retrograde in Pisces or the Mercury retrograde in Cancer. I think it was the one in Cancer. But some things came up. It was a series of unfortunate decisions and a series of fortunate decisions. Now it's a series of great decisions. And I'm sure like on the other side of that is a series of not great decisions. So there's always a dichotomy. And we're in Mercury retrograde with Gemini. So there's definitely both. And it feels like some of us are, or like some of you are on a timeline where you're looking back and seeing that you made a series of not great decisions. But because you now have that contrast, you can now see what kinds of decisions you want to make next to untangle some of the threads, to make some new threads, to go some new directions, to change the spiral that you're on a little bit or a lot of bit. And others are on more of a space of like looking back and going, wow, I'm really glad that I made the decisions that I made over this last however long. Like, look at this series. Like that's kind of where I'm at. If you're there up there with me, awesome. Like I'm looking at it going, I didn't do everything perfect. Sometimes I mess things up intentionally just so I could learn more about myself in the mess. Other times messes were made that I totally didn't intend, I didn't see coming, I didn't intend to have coming, though all of them were started from a place in the heart that was genuinely working towards love of myself, love of spirit, love of people around me, just the energy of love and healthy love. That was the goal, healthy love. And now I can look back, and especially with everything that's falling in line, got more coaching clients coming in, more people coming in for readings, things like that. I'm excited. I'm hoping to connect with some people locally to do local personal readings and stuff at the place I found and to do classes and stuff. And, there's all sorts of things that are still coming together. They're still materializing, for coming from the vortex, from the 5D to the 3D and stuff. But the nice thing is that looking back at a lot of the decisions that I've made, I can go, oh, that's another great decision, and that's another great decision, and I'm glad I made that decision. And maybe if you have like, okay, I'm grateful that I made that decision, though I can definitely see where I would like to make that decision a little differently this time, because I can see how I like created a waffly vibration, right? And I know that I've been talking to a few other, I've been talking to others of you too. Some of you are in that same space of going, you know what? Things may not be exactly where I thought they would be right now. Or maybe they are where I thought that we would be, but not quite in the way I thought we would get there. You can still see how everything that you did equaled to good in this moment. And that's like that, it's the evolved side of that energy. The other side of that energy, as I mentioned earlier, is that I made a series of not so great decisions, right? That's often a review period. And that's what Mercury retrograde is in any sign. It's about reviewing what you've gone through. Like, it's like kind of like what we pretend that we're going to do for New Year's, like when we talk about New Year's resolutions and stuff like that. Although with this, especially with Gemini, and we're also looking at the solar eclipse in Gemini, with the moon in Gemini. So we've got a lot of Gemini in there. That is really examining the fine print, the red flags, the things that the equations of, well, I did this, and I got that. But it's more like looking at, okay, I did this with that person and got this result. And then I did the same thing with that person and got a different result. Like it's that contrast, it's that weighing of things. So when I acted this way with person A and C, they acted similar to person J. But when I acted this way with person B and person D, they acted like person Z, and that was like out of contrast. But then when I did the same thing with person G and F, they acted somewhere in the middle between A, B, C, D, and F. You know, like just looking at it, going, huh, okay. Like it feels like it's definitely it's out of the energy. We're coming out of the energy of black and white thinking. That's what it really feels like. That if I do this with anyone, it will always equal that result, which is not true. In fact, this is something that came up in the last in the Mercury retrograde in Pisces and in Cancer, was like getting out of pedestaling, getting out of splitting, and getting out of black and white thinking, where it's like, okay, like a mark of emotional insecurity is, one person hurt me this way. So I need to guard myself against anybody ever being able to hurt me that way again. And I will not repeat the things that I did with them because those are the things that got me hurt. A mark of emotional maturity is going, okay, I did that with this person, or maybe with a few people, and I got this result. How can I look at my thinking and my actions to see how I contributed to getting myself hurt, to likely hurting the other person, and what things worked at that time. And if it's the same person, sometimes the timing was off. When you were ready to do it, they were not ready. And really, if they were not ready, you weren't really ready either, but you saw what the resolution would be. You just saw it early, and you were in a place where you needed to try it early and have the rejection and go through the learning and go through the shadow work so that you could later see that it was not, you weren't bad. You didn't make a wrong decision. You didn't lay your heart out on the table too early, too soon. Sometimes, yes, but it's never that you did it wrong. It's that helped you learn certain things that's going to make it just juicy when you do it the next time. And even if you do, even if, and 9 times out of 10, after you've been hurt and you started going through the healing of it and you find yourself in similar situations, you got to remember it's never a repeat. It's always an up cycle. So you're never going to have it as bad as it first was. It's never going to be that bad. You already went through that experience. It's like watching a movie twice. Even if you watch it once, and you don't watch it again for 20 years, and you watch it the second time, you're going to have a memory of the way you remembered it the first time, and new memories of things that either you didn't catch the first time, or things that were not as meaningful the first time, things like that. It will be different. And like, yes, there are some signatures of the same stuff, but it's not ever the same. It's always an upcycle. And then you can watch that same movie, you can watch it over and over and over again, and you'll catch something new and different each time. It'll be a different experience for you each time. Eventually you're going to watch that movie enough that you're probably not going to want to watch it for a while, even if it's a movie you dearly love, right? Well, that can happen with all sorts of other things too. Like each time you go through an experience, it's like, I mean, the main thing is that if you have an icky experience, if that's all you focus on was that you had an icky experience, you're going to keep manifesting that experience while spirit is laughing, going, if you don't want it, then stop thinking about it. Start manifesting something better that feels better. I mean, it doesn't bother the universe if you want to repeat the same thing over and over again and confirm for yourself over and over again that if you do A plus B with somebody who's not healed or doesn't have the same viewpoints as you, or who's not the same level of you, if you want to keep doing that over and over again, yeah, you're going to confirm what you believe is true, because you're majoring in minor things. You're focusing on stuff that really doesn't matter that much. And you're just re-injuring yourself over and over again on the same thing. So if you don't want that, then change the elements. If you want to keep the person, but you don't want the behavior, then you got to deal with your codependence. You got to be able to say, hey, I have a hard time not hurting myself on this behavior that you're doing. And I want the kind of friendship where I can say, hey, can you be sensitive for me in this place? And you will do it, and that I will return that too. Is when if you tell me that you get squishy in a certain way, that I will hold some space there too. But with the understanding that there are going, the longer you know somebody, especially a very close friend or lover or family member, the more times are that it's likely that you're going to have a fight or an argument or some separation period of some kind. Like and it only lasts as long as you keep it there. It only lasts as long as you're mad about it. You know, as long as you're scared that they'll reject you. That's the it lasts until you're not scared of that anymore. You know, and that's part of what Mercury retrograde brings up in general is the review, and this in particular, this Mercury retrograde plus the I think the solar eclipse energy is really in there, is that really looking at like what really matters. Like if you have a fight with a sister or a brother, and you both hurt each other, and you both in a place of like I didn't hurt them, and they're in a place I didn't hurt them, and you're both actually being jerks to each other, but neither one of you wants to be the first one to say it. You gotta sit and look at, okay, how do I want to be treated? And how do I want to feel about myself? Do I want to feel like would I rather be right and be like, I never hurt anybody? Or would I rather be humble and say, you know what, I can be a dick sometimes, especially when I feel hurt. And then think about it like it's, you don't have to hold on to family just because they're family, but think about it. Do you have a family member that you really appreciate when things are going good and that, yeah, they're not perfect, but you love them? You love their presence in your life as a person, not for things that they do for you. And you like to be a part of their lives and you like to do that. Well, then what's more important to you? To win this fight, to make it last as long as possible until somebody says, okay, fine, you didn't do anything wrong, I did everything wrong? Or would you rather just say, I love you and not worry about the rest? Know that it'll turn out better than you expected. Same thing can be applied with lovers, partners, friends, things like that. Like, what's more important to you? If you really don't like the person in general, you don't like who they are, their lifestyle, you don't get along, you're not compatible, all that stuff, then you got to get brave enough to let it go. If that's really how you feel. And don't be hard on them about it. Don't be judgy on them. Don't be judgy on yourself because we all have interactions like that. And it's an important, learning lesson as an adult and as a human to be able to release relationships of any kind that don't serve us anymore. Not for selfishness. It doesn't hurt. It hurts both people to hold on to something that doesn't serve either one for good, you know? And if it does, then recognize that nobody's perfect. We all have our weirdnesses. We all have our silliness. We all have our squishes. We all have our hypocrisies and things like that. So when it comes to somebody that you love, and especially somebody that you know loves you, whether they have a funny way of showing it or not, be that person that can just say, like, it's not that you're just supposed to drop it, but this, especially this Mercury retrograde energy, whenever Mercury retrograde comes up, but this energy in particular is really, really good for reaching out. And there's an accelerated energy going on too that helps the truth be seen. The truth is known, especially the truth of your heart, like what the spirit is like. In what spirit are you doing the things that you're doing? It's really highlighting those who are doing things either just based on fear or based on shame or based on like survival patterns, like might be gold digging or using people as emotional shields or blame patterns or like hunting down deceptiveness, being deceptive, like all that stuff. But it's also highlighting, because there's a trine going on with Saturn and Neptune, it's also highlighting those who may have done things that we felt were hurtful in the beginning, but we actually are coming, like the planets are coming to say, hey, that person may have hurt your feelings when they told you that you were being a jerk to somebody else that you feel like hurt you. But really, you needed to hear that. And it was actually quite kind of them to let you know that that's where things stood so that you had the opportunity to decide whether you wanted to be right or whether you wanted to heal the situation. It is only you that decided to feel hurt by that. And it's not really actually something that they did wrong or even hurtful to you. And there are plenty of times that you have spoken truth, likely to that same person, but at least to other people, that they really did not want to hear, but they did need to hear it. And it resulted in them changing their lives in better ways, whether they acknowledged it to you or not. And you did too. When people give you feedback, it does help you grow, even if you get squishy about it sometimes. But like I think that, and there's definitely a big energy on reveal, like the big reveal, and masks coming off to a degree, that and the rest of the way, like just being aware of our masks, being aware of our own silliness, our own BS, that kind of thing, and our own fine print. Like, if we don't like fine print on things, then we can't have fine print on things. If we don't want people to control us, we can't be so controlling. And controlling can mean many things. Controlling can be keeping secrets because you don't want to be held accountable, or you don't want to be shamed, or you don't want to hear "I told you so," or because you want to keep doing the ego behavior. Maybe you want to keep doing it, or maybe you don't want to talk about it, or maybe it's that you want the ability to get to a better place first before you face it, so that you can face it with some dignity. There are many, many reasons, but control can also cover trying to control what people think about you. And even if you're just stuck in your mind and you're worried about it, there's not really an actual person or group of people that are really going to feel that way to you. It's still controlling. You're gaslighting yourself with what other people might get upset about, which you have zero control over. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to manifest that they're going to be upset about your choices simply because you're afraid they're going to be upset about your choices because you believe it. And then that's what your brain it's like a computer. It does what the observer tells it to do. If the observer is looking at the thoughts that say people are not good, people are going to have something to say, people are going to be dramatic, people are not going to like this, then it automatically looks to confirm that reality. And you know what? If you still feel like you need that reality in your life at this point in time, that you need to have bad guys and heroes and people who are out to get you, like if you still feel like, I mean, we've all been there. I've certainly been there. If you feel like people are doing things to hurt you on purpose, that can lead to controlling. And the way to relieve that is not to armor yourself so that nobody can ever hurt you. It's to love yourself enough to recognize that's stupid. There's not people that do things to hurt you on purpose. Even the people who, like in 3D data, do something that does hurt you, even when you can confirm that they did it intentionally, there's two things about it. One, why did you call in that contrast? Why did you need or want to hear that on a subjective level? Why? Why? Secondarily, most people that do things that hurt others, it's really not, it's weird to say. It's more about them than anything else. When they hurt others, it's because they're hurting themselves on the inside. And oftentimes they're trying to figure out how to feel better. And what they've seen in life, their experience has been, you feel better when you feel powerful, or you feel better when you hurt someone back, or you feel better when you keep everything to yourself, or blow everything up, or whatever thing. It's just that a new loop has not been inserted in there yet. And you can become the person who changes that loop for others around you. Even if they're like totally resistant, even if they say, I promise I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say. Just being around your energy. When you get to a place of going, you know what? I don't need to control things. It's much more delightful, and everything turns out better than I imagine it to when I don't need to have control over it. When I trust the universe, and I trust that, if somebody tries to hurt you, like, okay, if somebody tried to hurt me, I would trust that, one, maybe I manifested that situation to help me learn something else. And I wasn't listening to other easier ways to get that information. Okay, fine. And then I'm going to look at the absurdity of however they may have tried to hurt me, and look at it and go, well, that's silly. Like, I'm not a mean person. I'm not a hard person. I'm not difficult to work with. I'm not difficult to talk to. I I'm very like as much as my persona probably says a little bit different. I'm not conceited. I don't. I'm the last person to believe that I know everything, but I love joking about it for that reason because it's so silly. Nobody could know everything. It's impossible, and I like that it's impossible because I already know a lot, and if I had everything in there, I'd probably not be in this dimension anymore. you know. Um, but yeah, like I mean, it highlights those sides of control. If you don't want anyone to ever control you, what you're going to manifest is you constantly trying to control everything around you to avoid being controlled. The way to not have the real truth is in the middle, which is what this energy is bringing in. That's the splitting of it. Either you're controlled or you're being controlling, but there's spaces in the middle where other realities exist that are much more pleasant. And one of the ways you can see them is to start looking at the ways in which you feel controlled in your life, and then actually look at how you appreciate that in certain ways. Maybe you don't appreciate the way that you're manifesting it. Maybe you'd like it to happen a different way. Or maybe you really would like to not be controlled at all. But the way to get there is to look at how you have been controlled in the past and see how you can feel grateful for however it manifested, and then start to look at how you try to control other people. Are there people that you don't tell, that you don't stand in the truth with because you're afraid they'll stop you or say something or tell you it's wrong or not agree with you or be disappointed in you, or because you don't want them to come and join your party? Like, what are your reasonings that you don't want to tell them? And once you go in and you heal those reasons, like if you're afraid they'll reject you, then face the fear of rejection. It's likely if you're afraid of it, they're just as afraid of it. So even if they do reject you, it's more a fear response than them actually rejecting you. If you felt called to do that with them, they wanted it on some level. They manifested it. They needed it for whatever thing, and so did you. And you will come out stronger from the end of that, even if you do get rejected. Plus, it also teaches you how to recognize when you're manifesting rejection energy, right? And likewise, if you're afraid someone's mad at you, well, then get over yourself, because you get mad at people too sometimes. And at the same time, somebody being mad at you is not the end of the world, and usually they're mad at you because something either got misunderstood or something happened where you were trying to learn how to take care of yourself, and somehow you tread upon a part of them that felt squishy. Maybe you didn't tell them everything. Maybe you didn't ask for help when they wanted to be helpful. Maybe you accidentally pushed away their help when they tried to offer it. I mean, there's so many different things, and it's so silly. It's all a bunch of silliness. Like, just get to the point to where you can go, okay, look, I know I'm not perfect. There's plenty of times that I'm silly, but there's also a lot of times that I'm really great. And I would much rather feel more often like that great person than like somebody that is really crappy. I'd rather look back and say, I made a series of great decisions in between some of the weirder stuff that I got into, and I'm really happy about those decisions, and I want to make more decisions like that. And if you're looking back and you're mostly only seeing that you made a bunch of bad decisions, well, then take some time by to yourself, date yourself for a while, and look at the decisions that you make when you are the only one influencing you, and look at what voices come out in your head. Who do you hear that, their opinions are who you worry about, like that, or tell you this isn't a good idea or this is a good idea, or things like that, really look at you. And when you can get to that point to where you're looking at all the ways that you try to control things, whether like trying to find the perfect words, whether trying not to cause drama, whether, I don't want to rock the boat, whether trying to keep everything private so that nobody knows your business and can ever say anything about it, or even to try to protect it so nobody can ever do any weirdness to it. Like, whatever it is, you're being controlling. If you need to know everything before you say yes to stuff, you're being controlling. If you made mistakes and you took big leaps before you looked, and you're trying to prevent yourself from making bigger messes, you're still being controlling. So if you don't want to be controlling, you got to look at that stuff, because it starts with how you control yourself, And once you focus on controlling yourself and then release that, then nobody else will be trying to control you. And even if they were, you'd see it from a mile away. You'd see it from 100 miles away. And you get to decide, do I want to interact with this person who wants to control me this way or not? Might be a fun experience, might not. But you're in a state where you're secure about how you control yourself. And you face your fears of rejection and whether or not other people might try to trick you or control you or things like that. Once you get through that, you don't have to be armored anymore. You don't have to always constantly be on vigilant guard, hyper fixated for how the next person might hurt you or might not hurt you, or how the last person might hurt you or not hurt you, things like that. Just move forward knowing that even if you completely cock it up, you can have fun cleaning it up. You can look at how you can do it differently. Because, I mean, while we're quite mortal, and yes, we will go splat for physical things, when it comes to energetic and spiritual things, it's pretty much, it's like any video game where you. Oh, hi, Brooke. I'm glad that that helped. It's like any video game where you get infinite lives. I like Halo. You respawn. Like anytime you make a mistake, you can respawn as a new person. You're the only person that holds yourself back in this place of you have to be old you all the time, or that you'll never be able to stop being old you, or you can't stop being old you because everybody else might change. Stop it. Just stop it. Like stop retelling that story. You're just remanifesting it. Get into a place where things are delightful and they always turn out better than you imagined. Even if your baseline is simply that it turns out good, then better than imagined is always better. You know what I mean? Like get yourself to a neutral zone and go up like one or two steps within the realms of what you can believe, and actually leave a little bit of room, because if you're at the top of what you can believe, then when something comes in that is better than you imagine, you're going to go, that's not believable, and then do it again, right, until you get that right. So go, figure out what's the most amazing thing that I can imagine happening right now. More than ideal, even better than that. So incredible that it's too good to be true. Okay. If it's too good to be true, then you're too high up there, but then you can come down and say, okay, but I could believe that this could happen. If everything went right and everything laid into place and all the cooperative components were good and I was right about all the things that I believe I'm right about, then this could happen. That's still a little too high. Come down to, you know what, this is a really good thing that could happen that I could believe. Like, okay, if you take twin flamey stuff, um, you could believe that you could be friends. You could be friends with your DM and you could be happy with that. That would be a good outcome, and it's a believable outcome. Why wouldn't they want to be friends with you? Why wouldn't you want to be friends with them? It's very believable. Whatever amount of time it might take to get there, who knows? But you could believe that that could happen and that that could happen fairly soon. So if that's your baseline, you're already doing pretty good. Friendship with your twin flame? Fuck yeah, why not, right? And if that's a good outcome and it's always better than you imagined, then it's up in the realms of the stuff that you believe is possible, right? And you could even go a step down from there and just play with it that way. But if you get to that place where everything's always good and you genuinely believe it's always good, and you see how even, you might trip in a gopher hole here or there, but 9 times out of 10 when you trip, you're gonna, like, whatever's in front of your face is gonna be something that was really cool to know or find. Like maybe you find a ring or a diamond or a rose or a flower that you've never seen before, or you end up having this funny story that you tell at a party later that somebody else also had that happen across from town, and then you're like, hey, this is an interesting synchronicity, and that leads you to somewhere else fun. Like, not all bad things that happen are bad. In fact, most of them aren't. It's usually a little bit of chaotic good, but we get stuck in our heads thinking, oh, this bad thing has happened. That must mean that all of the good things that I've seen before have now disappeared. We're like infants in that. Like when we're infants and we cry, they're like when we're not hungry and we don't need, physical attention and stuff, and we've gotten plenty of love, like all of that in there, and we're crying. Part of it is constancy testing because we don't have the ability in our minds at that time to realize that when nobody is around us, that they have not ceased to exist. Like that part of the brain's still developing. So anytime we're not in there, it's like, oh my gosh, where did these other beings in my reality go? Now that starts to develop as we get older. It's actually pretty quickly develops. We need it for survival purposes, but as we get to be adults, we often still hold on to that very thing. Is like, if the job we wanted is suddenly not available, oh my gosh, there's no jobs. The job that I wanted is never there again. If our twin flame has like 3 consecutive good moments of climbing out and then a bad one where they seem to go 10 step backwards, we're like, oh my gosh, is it them? Are they doing good enough? Will they ever change? Is it really me? Or if we don't achieve our weight loss goal or our quit smoking goal or money goals, bill goals, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be stuck in this forever. It's that constancy. We're thinking that the reality as it is in this present moment is the most important thing, and that as it is now, it might never change. No, get out of that. Look at, and in fact, you can use objective data to get yourself there. I can guarantee you, especially if you're watching this channel, anybody that you may be upset about or who may be in a weird place or something weird going on, if you look at the objective data, even look at yourself, at your own decisions that you make over time, there's more good than bad. Why focus on the minority of your experience with this person or that job or that passion project that you want to work on? Why? Right? I'm glad that I'm getting you. I'm glad that I'm reaching you, Brooke. If you want, send me an email, wickedlydivinefeminine@gmail.com. You can do that. I also have a Google Voice line that I keep forgetting to throw it out there. I don't know if I've changed the voicemail or on it or not. It might say Strategy Life Coaching, but it's 206-486-4625 or 486 goal, because that's what I had set up when I started life coaching like 10 years ago. Um, and it's text capable too. So anybody watching this, if you want to reach out, text, call, and we can get connected and help each other. All right, I'm going to leave this. It's not a nugget. It's not quite a main course either, but it's kind of a snack in there. Maybe the Hobbit's second breakfast, right? Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this. And as more information downloads come in, I will come in and fill you in on them for your delight and pleasure and whatever way you want to use it. So until we see each other again, goodbye.